Let's get this story rolling, right? Because I know you won't believe me when I say this, but I rolled up to my retirement property, my 5 acres of peace and quiet in the Carolina mountains, dreaming about starting over, only to find a $2 million mansion infinity pool and all right in the middle of my land. Yeah, you heard me. My land, my meadow, my dream. Poof, gone, replaced by some real-life Mediterranean fever dream, and a woman named Laura lounging poolside like she just bought Monaco. I'm Brian Adams, been a surveying engineer for 20 years, so I know my way around a property line. But that morning, standing in the shadow of that palace, all I could do was stare. My hands were shaking so bad I nearly dropped my phone. And when I finally worked up the nerve to tell Laura she was trespassing, you know what she did? She smiled, like I was the delivery guy. "Sir, you're confused. This is my private property." Then she offered me the guest house, as if I'd shown up to the wrong party. 6 months earlier, it was just me and my wife, Emma. Well, Emma fighting cancer, but still dreaming. We scraped together every penny, bought these 5 acres for retirement. We planned it all out on walks, modest cabin here, peach orchard there, porch facing sunrise. Emma would stand in that field, breathing in the mountain air, telling me, "This is where we'll heal, honey." I clung to that dream through chemo appointments, hospital cafeteria, coffee nights, when the only thing keeping me awake was the beeping of monitors and the map of our future in my head. Then I lost her. 2 weeks after Emma passed, I finally came back up here, hoping just to touch what she left behind. And that's when I found it, the mansion, the pool, the Tesla, all of it. My property markers were still there, but they looked different, fancier, like someone hired a pro to upgrade them. I felt like a ghost walking into someone else's life. I tried to be calm. 20 years in this business taught me emotions don't win fights, evidence does. So I started snapping photos, property lines, GPS coordinates, Laura's face looking at me like I was the intruder. Then I drove straight to the county courthouse and tracked down Patricia, the clerk. She's been running the office longer than I've been married. No record of any auction, Brian. These documents are fake. That's all she had to say for the bottom to drop out. Common sense says you call the cops, lawyer up, make it their problem. But I needed to know how deep this went, who was backing her, how she pulled off this magic trick. Emma's voice in my head late at night in the hospital telling me, "Honey, when the data doesn't make sense, get more data." So when Laura, maybe thinking she could keep an eye on me, offered the guest house while we sort this out, I took her up on it. Yeah, that happened. But I set a little insurance policy, dead man switch on my phone check-ins to my friend Tom every 30 minutes, and all my evidence backed up in the cloud, because if Laura could build a palace on stolen land, she might try to make me disappear too. The next morning I did what I do, measured. Turns out those new survey pins, county stamped fresh concrete, 4 months old at most. Laura had help. Someone who knew their way around land boundaries had set her up. Neighbors started drifting by. One, a contractor named Jake, leaned in while I checked the foundation line. "Be careful," he said. "Things aren't what they seem." Later, I caught Laura on the phone. "Tony, we need to accelerate the timeline. This mark has more money than expected." That's when the pattern came into focus. Fake historic renovation permits a phantom structure on paper, a new mansion in reality. Drainage rerouted to flood Mrs. Rodriguez's basement. A fence pushed 3 feet onto Mr. Peterson's lot. Noise fines paid off like parking tickets, all to keep construction going full tilt. And every neighbor she hurt, silenced, threatened, or shamed into backing down. But Laura wasn't just bold. She was calculated. She'd scammed at least 3 other widows and widowers in the last year, all with inheritance or settlement cash, all emotionally raw. The mansion wasn't just stolen property. It was bait for bigger fish. She'd even gotten the bank to appraise it as a historic Reno worth $1.8 million, all while paying taxes like it was an empty lot. That's fraud with a capital F. Jake brought me the final piece, a whole album of construction photos, permits with forged signatures, and proof the house was a teardown, not a Reno. Foundation cracks, rerouted drainage cash handed to a building inspector who'd never seen the site. Laura and her partner Tony Martin, a pro-con artist with a rap sheet across 3 states, were in deep with some private lenders who didn't exactly play by the rules. She wasn't just desperate for money, she was running out of time. And when people like that get cornered, you better believe things can get ugly. It all came to a head when my network of surveyors flagged Laura's permits, triggering an emergency inspection. Within hours, her lawyers blitzed me and the neighbors with cease and desist letters, painting me as an unstable, grieving widower with a vendetta. She hosted coffee chats at the local shop, spinning tales about the dangerous man she'd offered shelter to. The neighborhood started to back away. Even Jake was warned his license could be at risk. I almost cracked, staring at the pool's glow at night, thinking maybe Emma would want me to just walk away, start over somewhere else. But Emma always said, truth has its own timeline. Trust the process. So I did. I focused on preparing for the emergency hearing, turned every measurement photo and affidavit into a file that would hold up in court. Laura's lawyers put on a Broadway show at that hearing, expert witnesses, PowerPoints. Even a psychiatrist arguing my grief had clouded my judgment. But when it was our turn, I walked Judge Morgan through the GPS data, easement violations, and soil analysis. Tom showed how Laura's construction had deliberately created Mrs. Rodriguez's flooding. Jake live-streamed a fresh foundation crack in the basement right as the hearing was underway, water pouring in where we said it would. That was the moment Laura lost her grip. Judge Morgan issued a do not occupy order on the spot and froze her assets. The real estate commission and the DA got involved, and suddenly Laura's empire was on the chopping block. Now, this could have ended with just a demolition and a string of lawsuits, but you know what? That's not how real justice works, not out here. The neighborhood split. Half wanted the mansion bulldozed as a warning. Others argued we should turn it into something good. Mrs. Rodriguez was ready to swing the first hammer. Mr. Peterson wanted a library. And honestly, for the first time since all this began, people started coming together. Inspired by Emma's fight, I proposed a community buyout turn that House of Scams into a grief counseling center. We pooled our restitution credits, rallied local businesses. Even Emma's old oncology nurses chipped in. By auction day, we had 43 contributors and a plan to transform that mansion into Emma's haven. The corporate demolition guys came with calculators and stone faces, but in the end, with Mrs. Rodriguez and a few brave souls risking even more, we outbid them $1.7 million. Our win felt like a parade. But Laura and Tony, well, they weren't done. On the eve of the sale, security alarms tripped. They broke in, tried to sabotage the foundation, destroy evidence, livestream the mess to the shadow lenders, anything to keep us from rebuilding. The sheriff caught them, covered in mud, out of options. Laura looking me in the eye for the first time. "You destroyed my last chance," she whispered, not with anger, but a kind of haunted relief. For a moment, she was just another person lost to her own choices. We rebuilt together. Jake's crew fixed the foundation. Tom handled the engineering, Mrs. Rodriguez fed the volunteers, and even Laura's financial victims showed up to help. Memorial plaques, a garden where the pool used to be therapy rooms for families facing loss like I did. By the time the ribbon was cut on Emma's Haven, we weren't just neighbors, we were a community. 2 years later, that place serves over 300 families a year, and people come from all over for support. Sometimes I visit Laura in federal prison. She's a different person now, broken, maybe remorseful. I tell her about the families we help, about how her greatest crime accidentally gave birth to something that heals, not hurts. Funny how life works out, isn't it? Laura thought she could steal my land and my peace, but she built the foundation for something better than either of us could have dreamed. Sometimes the worst things people do to us reveal the best things we can do for others. That's what I learned out here, where mountains turn pain into purpose, and a community can realign even after the hardest storms. So what would you have done if you found a mansion on your land? Demolish it, rebuild, walk away? Comment below. Let's hear your take on justice, second chances, and what real healing means. Smash that, like if you believe good can come from even the ugliest messes, and share your own story if you've ever seen pain transformed into purpose. Until next time, remember, sometimes even a mansion built on lies can become a house of hope.